Adrian's here again. He's taking the taxi to our subscriber. Where is it off to again?
It's Wellington.
Wellington. It's off to Wellington. So all loaded up. Overloaded again, Adrian, eh? Overweight again. You know the comments are going to come in. So yeah, off to live a new life in the public world. Transporting dogs, I think it's going to be doing. So I picked up the little VW up from Moore's last thing Friday night. So I had it here for Saturday. Had a little burn home and back in it, double check everything, proper road test. I have to say, I forgot how much fun it is to drive a car with more tyre than engine. And I thought actually these are a lot more fun than I thought they were as well. The 1 litre in these does seem to be that a little bit better than the 1 litre in the things like the C1s and the i10s, that kind of thing. It really does like to rev. It really likes to go. And this is well kitted out as well. I didn't realise quite how well kitted out. I didn't realise the roof actually did come up and slide fully back as well. I just thought it was panoramic. And the seats are seated. The seats are heated. Yeah, it's a really fun little car to drive. Get it on the boil. Like I say, you can't overwhelm those tyres with the engine that you've got. And yeah, it's like I say, it does remind me of my first car. Reminds me of my Astra 1300 that I put Opel Manta GT wheels on and 185s on it, and I thought 185 tyres were absolutely massive at the time. With the 1.3 in it, it couldn't overwhelm the tyres, so you go around every corner flat out. And appropriately, it's got an Adele CD in the CD player with lots of breakup songs, so it really is like teenage life, isn't it? Anyway, we'll get this cleaned up and get this one up for sale. So Chris did me another solid. Whilst I was enjoying some night with friends last night, he was fixing the Fiesta for me. Took it away last night and did it overnight and dropped it off this morning. Did the clock spring on the steering column, so we can now let the customer know that it can actually be picked up. And I also picked the C4 up last night. Sorry, C4, why do I keep saying that? C3 Picasso up last night from Moore's. Let's get inside and I'll show you that in a second. So yeah, the C4 that was C3. Yeah, so the C3 that was sold, went back down to have something checked out on it knock-wise, and turns out on the test drive, the shock decided to shut itself completely and disintegrate, which I don't know what was going on there at all. So the boys did the shock, but obviously they've had to do the top mount as well at the same time. So that's sorted. That needs everything needs another valet now though, doesn't it? So that needs another valet. Fiesta needs another valet before they can come and pick them up. So that's what we'll start off our Saturday morning with, is giving the 2 cars that are due to be picked up a clean. Now we have got more drama, as always. We've got drama, haven't we? Drama. Right, so you will remember the black Dacia Sandero 2018, about 45,000 miles, which I had in, sold to a subscriber's daughter. She had the car for about, I don't know, it was 3 weeks, a month. Light popped up on the dashboard. I read it and it said that it was possibly catalytic converter. Put some cleaner in it, told her to run it away. The light was going out on its own, so it wasn't staying on. So the only way I was able to read it was the fact that it was in the history on the car. So went off, about another month or so passed by, light came up again. I said come in, read it. And what happened then? I think, no, maybe it was more than a month before it came back again, but it did. And by the time she came back in again with it, the light had gone off again. But when I read it, it said it was, I think it said it was catalytic converter again then. And so I cleared it and I said, well, let's see how long it takes for it to come back the next time, you know. I think again it took roughly about another month, because I think we're coming up to 6 months now. It took about another month, and she messaged me saying it's on again. Bought in, it'd gone out again. So what we did is took the car from her and we put a oxygen sensor. The guy said, oh, we've got no reading from the pre-cat sensor. That's the one that sits on top of your manifold on your engine. So we swapped that out, assuming that that was faulty because there was no reading on it at all. But I wasn't so sure about that because it was not showing any reading on the sensor. Doesn't necessarily mean the sensor was bad, but we've got a brand new one from Renault because that's the only place you can get it. A couple £100, stuck it in, cleared the light, off the lady went. Another few weeks went by, ping, the light comes back on again. So take it back into the, I think it was car care and balance went into, and this time they said, well, it's going to need a catalytic converter then, which obviously we are starting to get into part starts there, aren't we? So I thought, I'm not sure about that. Took it down to the Moors boys. I've lent her these, at this point, I've lent her my Suzuki Swift Sport so she can carry on running about while we try and sort this out. Take it down to the Moors boys, they check it out and go, no, we're not sure it's a catalytic converter at all. The readings for that are all right or whatever. We think it's electrical. We think it's possibly something in the loom or something like that that's thrown up a false code. So they checked all of that, couldn't find anything, said, right, well, our only option is to send the ECU off. So the ECU was due to go off. Unfortunately, there was, I think, miscommunication within the Moors and it didn't get sent. So I ran down, grabbed it myself, sent it off to ECU testing to get it done. ECU testing then messaged me 2 days later and said, actually, we can't check these Renault ones on our test bed. So we're going to need to send it back to you and you're going to need to find somebody else. We can do a basic test on it, which was okay, but we can't do a more in-depth test or something like that. So they're sending the ECU back. So in the meantime, this has now been getting on for like a month. The lady's had the Suzuki Swift and I messaged her last night and I said, the ECU's come back to me. I've got to find somebody else who does Renault ones, so that is going to be delayed again. What do you want to do? You know, if you're fed up by now, we can organise giving you a refund on the car. Now, bear in mind, we're now past 6 months. The warranty-wise cover's gone on it, so I can't claim an ECU on them anyway. I don't think it is. So we got the lady coming in today because what I've said to her is I've said, look, you might be getting fed up by now, although she has been sending me messages saying she's loving driving the Suzuki Swift about, which I don't blame her, and I'm missing it like mad. So I said to her, look, you know, the choices are, I said, we can wait for the ECU to go off again and find out if they can find a problem. I said, my gut feeling is they won't find a problem. I think it's just one of those gremlins in the system. Number two is you get the car back knowing that it will throw an engine code up once in a blue moon, and don't forget it's clearing itself, so it's not like we're having to clear the code is going on its own accord, so you live with that. And I said what we could do is extend your warranty out for another 6 months so that if it does get any worse within that period then we can still get it sorted. Option number three being you bring the car back, we obviously do a deduction for the usage that's been had from the vehicle, and she decides to buy something else somewhere else or something from me or whatever, and then I resell the car with that as a known fault or go further into investigating what's wrong with it, which I think, to be honest, is a bit of a waste of time. So remember, obviously we're past 6 months now, so just to clarify, obviously within the first 6 months of owning a vehicle from a dealer, if a fault arises, the dealer has to prove that it didn't exist at point of sale, which is impossible, and you're never going to win that case. You're always going to be losing that case. After 6 months, it's up to the consumer to prove that the fault did exist at the point of sale, which again, they're not going to be able to really prove that because they've had the car for 6 months running. But obviously in this case, it's easy for our person to prove that the fault existed because we've been liaising back and forth within that 6 months on this one problem. Remember, as a car dealer, you get one chance to fix a fault and then the vehicle can be returned anyway. So we've probably had our one chance at fixing what was wrong with this because it is the same fault coming back. It's not a different fault. If it's a different fault, you're allowed another chance on that fault. But in this case, it's the same fault. So she's within her rights to do a return on it as well. So we've got them popping in about an hour's time. I don't know what they're thinking. She's coming with her dad. I don't know what they're thinking is already, what they've discussed between them and what their thoughts are. So we shall have to see, and I shall update you shortly on that. But it's a shame because these Dacias, they haven't got a lot on them to go wrong really, and I don't really tend to have any problems with them, especially that new with that mileage on. But anything that's got a lot of electrics in it is prone to getting a gremlin here and there, isn't it? And you know, I can reassure people to the cows come home, it's not really a problem, but if they see an engine light come up on the dash, they tend to get worried, don't they? Anyhow, I'll update you shortly. Just a quick point on problems we are having with cars, by the way. Obviously, I focus on those more than anything else because you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. Telling you a car's gone out the door and I've never seen it again is not really of interest. So to put it in perspective, we're selling probably over 20 cars a month now, and our current problems with cars that we have is, you know, obviously we've had the issue with the Fabia, we're having this issue with the Dacia, and we've got another car we've got something going on with. But in grand scheme of things, it is very much less than 10%. It's, you know, probably in the 2s and 3%. And bearing in mind, we're doing cars that are well over 10 years old a lot of the time with 100,000 miles. I think it's very very likely we're going to run into problems here and there, especially when someone starts using the car every single day. And we aren't saying to them, you've got 30 days. We're saying 3 months and 6 months. People are going to come back to us, aren't they? Oh, and then, yeah, another bummer. Woes on woes at the moment, isn't it? The Cougar, driving lovely, looks fantastic. Everything, went to put it on Auto Trader last night, ran it through, it's come back as Cat N. Now, that is entirely down to me. I tell you guys all the time, you need to use your car vertical, which we will put a link to in the description down below with your discount for that. I say you should do your car vertical in every single car. I do get lazy every now and then. If I buy from a dealer that's supposed to be HPI number 4, I tend to be a bit slack. And in this case, I did. I didn't run and check it. Their salesperson obviously didn't. Their policy is their salesperson has to run a check on it. And we've seen in previous videos that sometimes that hasn't been done. Looks like this is another one that slipped through the net. So I think I probably know where it was as well, because I can see filler crack there around the headlight just there. So I suspect it was the, and the bumper's slightly out of line there. I mean, overall, actually, the colours are really good. It's not massively obvious. So yeah, bit of an issue. So I was looking at it saying, what do I do? Because normally I take 25% off for a cat car, but then I started to look again. It's a 2008 car with 102,000 miles on it. It's got a new advisory-free MOT on it. Obviously, you saw in the videos me drive it to Birmingham and back to get that 911 Porsche, and it drove like a champ. It's super clean and tidy. We just spent £500 on it, having the MOT done and the service done. So at the end of the day, really, at this kind of price point, which is, I think, the Auto Trader for that is $3,995. I thought, well, no, do you know what? I'm going to put it up at that price anyway. Obviously, I always state it's Cat N in the adverts. Well, Auto Trader does it for me, but on Facebook, I need to write it in. And I think, you know, realistically, I still think it's worth $3,500 at least. You know, what car are you buying this age that hasn't had a bumper or a headlight or a wing or something? Let's be honest about it. So does it really make any difference? It's Cat N when you're talking sort of sub 4K, especially when, you know, you want something that's going to be reliable and look clean and tidy. And I think that's, you know, something our Cougar's got in droves. So yeah, just another, people think I make this stuff up. And again, it is frustrating. You can't control what people say online. But have a look at the number of cars outside. Have a look at the number of cars in this unit and the next unit. I do, as a general rule, do my own car verticals on the vehicles. I spent yesterday doing a number of them on different vehicles, ones that I've been offered to buy, that kind of thing. But every now and then I get slack, and that's when you get burnt. So don't assume anything when you're looking at cars. Make sure you get your check done. Again, I'll put a link in the description down below with my discount code for doing your checks. Right, plan for today, after I've got those cars valeted, and obviously I've got those people visiting, if I still manage to get time within the day, is to get the old Golf up on our lovely ramp, get all the wheels off, and take off all this bad lacquer, and do my old diamond cut finish treatment on them, re-lacquer them, get those on. So I've been unfortunately let down on getting the paint done, because I didn't want to start those until that paint was done. So get that done, and then hopefully Malk, I'll fall on my knees to Malk, and he will jump on and do the bits of paint that need to be done, and then I can get it down, get the new tyres on the front. So Chris said that the inside edge of the tyres, I think he said the inside edge of the tyres, maybe meant the outside. They look a lot, yeah, the outside edge looks thinner than the inside edge, I think. I don't know. We'll get a second opinion on it and get the Moors boys to check it. Because if you remember, just that little bit of vibration at higher speed, about 60 mile an hour, could be something with regarding the discs as well, I guess. But we'll get it checked out. But we also want to give it machine polish as well, touching some of the scratches. So hopefully we'll be able to get at least underway on that today. And Chris is also planning on coming back and grabbing the Sportage that I've reached my limit of skills on, to try and find out why we've got that uneven idle and the code for cylinder 1 and 2. So we should find out if that's a total burn or not. Right, I'm having what some of you might consider a funny 5 minutes. I moved the MGB out to get in the 2 sales cars that are ready to go. Just need to wipe them down and hoover them back out again now. And as it came out, I looked at the bubbling stuff on it and just thought, well, I need to attack that. I've been putting it off for a while. I need to attack it and make sure it doesn't go any further. And I've basically gone around all the car, because we know that it's solid underneath because it passed MOT advisory free, didn't it? And it's mechanically stupidly sound. It goes really, really well, apart from a battery drain. I need to find where the battery drain is going. So what I've done is gone around with a flat-headed screwdriver and literally just scraped it all away, all where it's bubbling. I don't know what's wrong with me. I really quite like that look. I know a lot of you don't. You absolutely loathe it. But yeah, the main thing is, like I say, get the bubbling off so that I can get to where the actual rust is underneath the paint. And then I can treat that with the Cure Rust to stop it going any further before it gets completely out of control and the car needs a full restoration. I'd rather do that and sort of brush points and paint on for the moment, just to stop it from going any further. I don't want to start restoring this car because it's like the other MGB. It'll never be back on the road again. I won't get to enjoy it. So we're just going to stem where the major rot is going through. Overall, it's actually pretty good. It's the same old, same old. And these are seams. When the cars get painted, people don't key up properly around the seams. They lag the paint on, it lifts, lets water underneath, and it starts to rot. So you need to go around your seams and treat them all. And then we will get around to giving it some decent paint at some point. Update on the Dacia situation. So they've been and gone a while back, actually. Lovely, lovely people. I mean, bless them. She wasn't really coming around to make sure she wasn't taking the mic or continuing to use the Swift. And I said, there's no problem at all. I haven't sorted your car out yet. So yeah, we had a good chat. And to be honest, we've just kind of left things up in the air. You know, we'll get the ECU sent off, find somebody else to test it, because ECU testing couldn't test it. See if someone else can test it. If it comes back as not having a fault, we'll put it back in. And I said, look, you can, you know, I'll do your deal minus the mileage to get your money back on the car. They've kind of said, well, yeah, really, we don't want it with the engine light coming back on again. We'd like to buy something else off of you, which is nice. And they ideally would have liked the Kia here, but unfortunately that's already sold. So we're on the keeping an eye out for them on something else. I said, if in between you find another car you like, you know, like I say, I can just cash out and get the car back, and you can buy a car for someone else. You're not obliged to buy one from me. But they said, look, if I'm happy to wait it out, they're happy to wait it out to find the right car, or for their problem to be solved one way or another. So, you know, when people are working with you like that, it's all good, isn't it? And for me, people that behave like that, I'm good to help them out. Screamers makes no difference to me at all. Screamings, you know, making big fusses might work for big corporate companies, but for me, won't make a blind bit of difference. I own the business. I'll decide what happens and what's fair. And no amount of screaming is going to make a blind bit of difference. You work with me like these people are, I'll bend over backwards for you. Anyway, let's get on and hoover these cars out. But before that, I'll just put some Cure Rust on those bits I just did on the MGB. So I've got two wheels stripped down already. I did have a little play with it this time. If you haven't seen this, I've got a previous video about how I do this. So if you've got the lacquer peel, I use the grinder with the paint stripping disc. I stay nice and flat, take all that lacquer off so I'm not touching the grey bits there. And then once I've got it all off, I go around and go in one direction, try and get it as even finish as possible. It's not obviously the same as diamond cut, but it's a budget option for it, which means I don't have to massively hike up the price of the car. Someone had told me before to use a scuff pad on them afterwards. I did try that, 1000 grit scuff pad going back and forth, but I didn't like it. It kind of dulled the metal a little bit. Then I tried this on here, which is more like a 1600 scuff pad on a drill. Did that again. It kind of dulled the metal back a little bit, which I didn't like. I'd rather have more visible lines and a brighter shine. My other argument for leaving it like that is, the finer grade I go, the more likely the lacquer will peel off like it did for VW. I will be applying a, to this quite keyed surface, I'll be applying an adhesion promoter and then my lacquer. And I think I've got much better odds of my finish staying on there for a lot longer than the VW stuff. Fingers crossed. So like I say, I've never said it's a perfect sort of diamond cut finish, but it's obviously a damn sight better than a load of horrible lacquer peel. So wheels all been cleaned off, dried thoroughly. We're just applying to the last wheel there some of the 1K promoter, the adhesion promoter. So I'm not sure exactly what this does, to be honest. It could be marketing jargon, but it is, I imagine it etches in to the steel, the rubber, plastic, whatever you're using, and gives you a surface that is more likely to take the paint well. So we'll give a coating this, let this dry off, and then start applying the lacquer. So lacquer's gone on, just letting it all dry off. And then we'll get them out into the sunlight and see what they look like, but for the moment let's leave well enough alone time. So quick top tip for those of you trading at the moment is, I hadn't experienced this before, but that Citroen C3 I had, absolutely phone ringing off the hook. I had a load of phone calls today. That's about something you haven't seen yet. A load of phone calls today. Ever since it's been listed, I've probably had 2 phone calls a day. I haven't actually got around to taking it off of Auto Trader yet, so I need to get on and do that. But yeah, if you spot any C3s, or if you're out looking for stuff to flip and you find any ones at a decent price on Marketplace or anything like that, grab them, because that was, I think it was the mileage, I think going below 60,000 miles was a very popular aspect of it. The colour was good, obviously the metallic red, but yeah, phone's been ringing off the hook over that. So yeah, look out for those. I'll certainly be looking out for more of them. Either they're popular or I undersold it again and should have priced it higher. So I had a message on Instagram from a lady who said that hubby is a massive fan. His birthday's coming up and she wanted something a bit different for him. So I thought, well, I've got some hubcaps off of the taxi. So here it is for you, Matty. Get one in the post for you. Unfortunately, bad news on the taxi. It is on its way back. So that's going to be proper chops history, that hubcap. What I am happy to do though, however, is I've got Chops Garage stickers. If you want to send me a self-addressed envelope with a stamp on it, I will happily post you a couple of stickers back free of charge. So just you know the garage address up there. So if you send me a self-addressed envelope with a stamp on it, I'll stick a couple of stickers in it and send it back to you, because just like I say, I don't even really have time to sell them, to be honest. I'll get it in the post to you. So wheels have dried off for the Golf. I'm swapping them around. I'm swapping the fronts to rear and vice versa, because if you remember we had a vibration about 60 mile an hour. I just want to see if I can eliminate that it's the tyres or not, because obviously if it is, then I'll get them replaced. So I've moved the Golf outside, retorqued the wheels. You want to do that after you've torqued them. If you've moved it a distance, retorque them again, just double check. We'll have another check when we go after this test drive. We're going to go for the test drive now, see if it's made any difference to that sort of 60 mile an hour vibration I felt. We'll go a different way. We'll go the way where I can get up to speed. If that's all okay, then we'll know we just need to put tyres on the back, as we moved the ones from the front to the back. And then it'll be good to go on machine polishing the body, then get it down for Malcolm, who's probably just about finished with the Vitara, to paint the 2 corners here. So I don't know what time to set you up on a camera, but I'll take it for a spin and let you know the result. So unfortunately it's still there. It drives really well, but I can't help but feel sometimes you're not getting full power, like there's a hesitation going on. And I'm wondering if, oh, dropped my box. I'm wondering if what's happened is the speed is building and there's a higher demand for fuel. That problem is increasing, if that kind of makes sense. It doesn't feel to me like suspension. I mean, it could be there's a hub or something out on the front and more speed is causing the vibration. I couldn't rule that out completely, but my gut is telling me it's fuel related, because I do know these got electronic throttle pedals, haven't they? So I'm wondering if that's playing up maybe, or a fuel pump. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the old IP819 that we had in the last video, the X tool. I have got the discount code for that now. I'll put it in the description. It's 8% off, which I think is quite a hefty whack on that. So I'll detail that in a minute. But we're going to plug it in. Now, it's not throwing any codes currently. My reason for plugging it in is to see if there is any historic codes kicking around, or any that for whatever reason aren't showing up on the dashboard. And then ideally what I'd do is have somebody next to me in the seat and put the fuel injectors and all that on live data, and then have me boot it around and then see if there's any variation on injectors or fuel pressure, that kind of thing, that might cause this. I can actually set it on record and go and do that as well, which I might well actually do, thinking about it. I just thought that through as I was saying it on camera. I can set it to record that, so I can set all those parameters, have it go in, hit record and go for a drive. That might be worth doing, but first let's just see if there's any codes hiding about in it. Get auto scanning, get the VIN up. So AJ Golf variant after 2010. Oh, that's got me. Try that one. Automatic scan. Off it goes to do its thing. Now it's already picking up a failure on engine electronics, which there's no warning on the dash at all. Let it scan everything though. So diagnose. Read trouble code. Here we go. There it is. I knew it. I knew it. Well, I said under fueling, but I also thought the other thing it was is like the turbo sort of going in and out, in and out. An under boost on the turbo. So I would suspect, based on the way that's happening, I hope it's a boost leak. The power of the turbo is really good, and it flies along. There's no smoke out the back, so I'm suspecting we've got a boost leak somewhere. Either that, or it is the there's an actuator, isn't on most of the turbos. So it could be the actuator on the turbo. We do love turbos. They cause us no end of troubles. So that wasn't on a dashboard at all. But that is, having had the diagnostics meeting, is allowing us to direct us to the right place. So we already know where we're going to be. So I can hop online and see what there is in terms of what, if I have to put a turbo in it, what the turbo cost is. Which could hurt the deal quite a lot, obviously. But yeah, no, it tells me which direction to go in and also where to start. So if if you were a bit more hands-on than I am these days, because I simply don't have the time, it's this is time to go rooting around the engine bay and see if you can find any obvious bad pipes on it. We might have a quick look in a second, see if there's anything just staring us in the face. But I've had this code before. Those of you who followed me for a while, I've had this code before on diesel Alfa Romeos and Mini Cooper S's. I did fix a Mini Cooper S very easily actually by just replacing one once before. It was just the actuator on the side of it, I think it was, that I replaced. Sorted out straight away. Didn't have to do the whole turbo, so fingers crossed for that. But now, yeah, now we've got some direction to go. So yeah, excellent bit of kit. Again, this is one of the more comprehensive machines. I think it is in the sort of 550, 560, I'll put the exact figures on the screen, price range. Like I said, there is an 8% discount code, so that's a decent chunk off. But in terms of, if you took this down and asked them to do this for you, like I say, at the moment you're looking 50, 60 quid for that alone. So it doesn't take many times of playing with an old car for this to recoup its money. And then, like I say, this will obviously go on to do a hell of a lot more than this as well. So looking in the engine bay, it's I don't know, it looks fairly new, that turbo, to me. Either that was just cleaned up really well. These pipes look very, very clean, don't they? That's, I imagine, the pressure sensor. That might be one of the first things to try swapping out and seeing if that does anything. If it doesn't, it could be pipe work. My only concern would be, if this was all new, is if it's actually low compression that's causing the problem. And I've already put a turbo in and found it was low compression that was causing the problem, which is why they've binned it off. I'm looking around the engine bay to see if I can see any obvious bad pipe work or anything like that, but it only takes a pinhole to do it. That's the trouble. These pipes here look new though. Either it's just cleaned up really, really well. That clip and that pipe just looks suspiciously new to me. Yeah. Might need a compression test as well, possibly. I might be jumping overboard on that, but I think we need to get some other eyes on it now. I think we definitely do that before we go and get the paint done, because at the moment, in terms of what we got into this, it's only my time refurbing those alloys. Yeah, so at the end of the day, that wouldn't be the end of the world if that's all the money I had into. I got a good price on the car, so we could get work done on it and come out of it alive. We wouldn't make much money out of it, or any money out of it. We'd come out of it alive. But I don't want to go throwing more money at paint if this turns out to be a more serious problem. So I think, yeah, we need to get some other eyes on it now. I call all these Rolls Royces Farmer's Corner.